hey Vega, nice to see you. Nice to have you here.
What's going on, man?
The universe sings.
Yeah, I just want to start off with expressing gratitude because you're way ahead. You're well into building your own brand, and you've done such a lot of cool stuff. And you didn't even question it when I asked for you to come on when I at the moment have like 250 followers or something. And so yeah, I think it. I want to start with this because I think it says a lot about you for people to carve out the time to do stuff with other people when they don't need to. That's a really cool sign. So thanks, man.
To be honest, like followers don't mean anything to me. You never know, who is who or who knows who, or if just people are just good people in general. My biggest thing that I tell people is that I think people will get more in life if they just continuously really treat people the way they like to be treated. And I don't like it when people think they're like too good, or they can't make time because they don't know who I am or whatever else. So I'll never try to make anybody feel like that either.
It's so cool, and it is cool. And I think I've seen you mention things along those lines, which probably led me to be comfortable asking you. But it's one thing to say it and a whole other thing to do it, because you've obviously got a lot going on, and so like you actually put your money where your mouth is, and that's really awesome to see.
Word is important, because if people can't trust what you say, then like literally all of my money that pays my bills is generated by what I say. Because like music is just your word. Music is music, and partnerships and things like that. Making commercials is literally just your word and your presence. And if you don't have that, or if I don't have that, then I have really nothing. So,
and I guess I'm in the same boat right now as well. Man, can you tell me about how did you get here? Because your whole persona is made up of such a bunch of cool stuff. There's anime sprinkled here and there. There's gaming, and then there's obviously the rapping, and then there's Web3. And one of the things that I really find really cool about you is that, like, for example, I don't know how much that is true because I don't know his whole story. But when I look at Spotty, for example, I see someone who I don't know what he was like before Web3, but he seems to have just like absolutely blown up, and where it has been a huge like step forward for him, and for you it seems to have been a whole other thing. I feel like you were the artist, and then everything kind of came together with Web3 as well. And I would love to hear a little bit of your backstory of how you got here.
yeah, I think Web3 is one of those things that some people like myself, we've been waiting for forever, because it's just like, an accumulation of all our interests. Growing up, some people have parents that, like, I don't want to say like force, but like, strictly encourage them to do things. Like, there are some parents that are like, hey, like, you're going to be a professional athlete. You're going to be a basketball player. You're going to be a football player. My parents, whether it was just because we didn't have the luxury for it or not, they kind of just was like, hey, man, try out a bunch of things, do all kinds of stuff, whatever you feel like, man.
That's
I mean,
so cool.
they did want me to be in the medical field, so I'll say that. But like, for the most part, just like interests and hobbies, I was always free to explore things. And so just always being a creative, got into things that like touched on creativity, like, gaming, like anime, like, music. All those things, come from some source of creativity. So I've been through several skills and talents and hobbies and things, and whatever I can tie together, I do. But I just kind of, landed on music, and it's something that I love to do. So, that's why I'm doing it. And then the rest of the stuff just fits in because it aligns with that sort of creativity.
I can tell. I was actually vibing to your music just before. I thought there couldn't be any better way for me to like get prepared and get hyped. And I really like what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks.
So there's for me, when I was thinking about this conversation a few days ago, there's two words that came to mind. It was fearless and trailblazer. just came up naturally, and there's actually quite a lot to unpack because I've been thinking about it. And there are two things that I see that you're doing that are super interesting. One of them is, I think that a lot of what you're doing is going to shape the future of the music industry. And another one is that you are like as close to the perfect example of what it is to leverage IP that has been given to people by a brand through NFTs. Let's start with the first one. I'm willing. I could take the bet with whoever wants to, with whoever feels like it, that what you're doing right now will end up being copied down the line by a bunch of people
I
when they
mean,
catch on.
absolutely. Yeah, I just had a dinner about that last night with one of the clones who's like a, VC type of investor. This type of virtual idol, is what Asia is calling it, is like
Mm,
it's pretty popular in Asia right now. As far as like rap music and being in other countries or markets, it's we don't really see it yet. For people in the US, usually it takes somebody making like a ton of money off something for everybody else to be like, oh, I
mm,
can do that too, I want to do that too. So when we start to see like successful cases of it, like absolutely we'll see a ton of people doing it. But until then, it's just going to be like skeptics,
mhm.
and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you see the next little while playing out for you in that regard? What's your mindset at right now? Because there's so much uncertainty. Like even the whole IP thing with clonex, for example, with Artifact. Like there's quite a bit to be a little bit uncertain about. So how do you personally feel about that?
I think that everything that I've been doing, just the consistency, it will pay off. As far as like the IP stuff with Clonex, like I talk to people on the team pretty frequently to make sure like I can do what I want to do, because that's what I signed up for. At the end of the day, a lot of people signed up for the IP rights and the 3D models and doing things like that. So in terms of using it the way that I want to, I feel like I'm not necessarily violating any terms. As of yet, I don't know
Mhm.
if there will be revisions to their guidelines or licensing or anything else. But the way that I have set up the character of the digital identity, as Junior Junior, the way that I've set it up, it's someone used the term last night, brand agnostic, to where like
Mm,
it doesn't matter how the brand does or if it's one brand or another. Like the character of Junior is, firstly that he's a clone, and secondly that he's a robot, and
mm,
that could be replicated, that could be cloned, that can look different, it could be upgraded upon. Just last night, I posted a variant of Junior
the
from the
Valhalla.
Valhalla brand. Yeah.
Man, I love it. I'm fucking jealous of your Valhalla. It looks incredible.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of it, is that I didn't put myself in a box. I didn't lock
Mm,
myself into something that I would be dependent on. The character is the brand, and it's my own thing. I use a Clonex because I like Clonex, and I like where it started, and I like the people in it, and what I do with any success will push everybody else forward. And as
mm.
many friends as I've made, I'd love to see everybody else, gain or profit in some capacity from things that I'm able to do. But if things, were to ever just change up or not go so well with Clonex, like I'm not married to it, and the design of the character is built to be able to transition whenever I need to.
There's also the aspect of clonex has that virtuous effect that's embedded into it. What you've been doing with what's his name, Jordan,
Yeah, Dom.
Dom Jordan, yeah. What you've been doing
Yeah.
with him of like using his skills, mashing it with your storytelling, and then including other people from the Clonex universe. This is what it's all about, and that's why that it's also part of the reason why I chose Clonex. I love the vibe. I love and I love the people that are into it. And you have a very strong brand, and you have a bunch of people who have their incentives aligned in you want to push yourself, and you can do that by also pushing others up. And yeah, I think we haven't seen anything when it comes to the power of the network effect that these brands will have in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's something about me too. Is I've always been very much a person of loyalty and respect for people that have reciprocated that to me. Anybody that is helping me build things out, or like people like Dom,
Mm.
uh, I will make sure when the time comes that they're rewarded for it in any capacity that I can. Whether that's like them being involved in profits and design on like major partnerships having to do with, let's say, like Yellow Jacket Gang, for example. um, that's something that I really look forward to. So uh, with this network of people doing these things, all the creators, it makes a lot more sense for them to align with each other, given a clear and distinct, like, creative direction, so that we can build something from the ground up. Otherwise, we are just kind of being used as, like, free marketing with no aim other than to keep creating for this, like, big brand that doesn't even really need us in the first place. There's no
Absolutely.
real incentive to keep creating for Artifact if you know they're not saying that they'll eventually, like, buy a brand, or like um, hand opportunities to a brand, or like pay anybody. But the things that we're doing together, as creatives, are really like uh, from the bottom up. So
Mm.
um, if it does become profitable, it will actually benefit everybody, instead of something already being profitable from the top, and then, like,
Yeah.
hoping for a crumb of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's super interesting because it reminds me of something that I'd forgotten where it kind of is in their promise of being this creator brand, and I've seen it as a promise, but I haven't been a holder for long enough, so I maybe I've missed a few things. But do you think it's really embedded into the core identity of Artifact yet? How much they should basically be the shepherd that brings us all together into that one direction?
I think that NFT brands are kind of like a new era of doing things, and there's like a very, like, fine line, um, because at the end of the day, realistically, they don't owe us anything.
Yeah,
They can say they
absolutely.
don't owe us anything. They have Nike backing, and if certain creators were to leave, or some other people were to leave, I'm sure they would be replaced by somebody else. But at the same time, without us, then they're working harder.
Yeah.
It would be harder to meet deadlines or sales goals. I'm sure they have sales goals because of Nike and stuff like that. Uh, it's interesting because before, you would have brands or big corporations, and it would just be like, marketing, let's generate some sales. And now it's
Mm.
like, hey, we, have gained from them, and they can also gain from us. And if it isn't handled, like, cordially, then it would go, badly for either party. So yeah, they don't really owe us anything, but they would stand to benefit more from working with the people that are, helping to make them what they are.
I think it's what will differentiate good Web3 brands from incredible and legacy Web3 brands. It's those that will really break the barrier between the between community and team and make it a completely virtuous cycle. When you think about when you have right now almost 10,000 holders for Artifact, if you empower them in a meaningful way to create content, and if you use the resources that you have access to help them in that way, like it's infinite power to you.
I would say the difficulty is, like, unifying those people.
Mm.
Everybody's in it for different reasons. Everybody has different, world views, political views, different kinds of views on things.
Yeah.
Even, something similar to, like, what I'm doing, it just seems like it would be so easy for 10,000 people to push like an album or a song or a
Mm.
music video, like when I put it out there, right? Like 10,000 people, even half of that, even maybe like a quarter of that could put something on like a Billboard chart. But, here I am, X amount of songs later, and we're still not on those
Mm.
type of charts. And that's just because, yeah, a lot of people, they don't see the vision of like synergy. They don't see the vision
Mm.
of like, what it would do to the value of what they have themselves if they increase the value of people in the ecosystem. Um, so having that many holders is like dope, but like unifying them is completely
Yeah.
different ball game.
Yeah, and it's what you were saying before is very true. Where they're between the hammer and the anvil, because they have the community who they don't technically owe anything to, but who feels entitled, and even if they would get replaced, like they have been in the past few weeks, you still want to honor your core holder base, which I do genuinely think Artifact wants to do. And then you have the hammer, which is Nike, which indeed is a big corporation. They didn't buy Artifact out of the love in their heart, or not just the love in their heart anyway. And so yeah, there are goals that need to be achieved. But what you're saying is really interesting, because like it should be a role on the Artifact team. It should even be a whole department of how do we push our community up and out into the world.
Well, I think that's the difference, right? Is like some brands now, that didn't necessarily take like VC backing or anything
Mm.
like that. They look at it as, okay, each one of these, creators, each one of these avatars, characters, they are embedded with our IP. And the more places we get them, the more visible we are, the more people we
Mm.
know, it'll generate that way. And, that's what would make sense. Like you see people that are doing things in a brand for your brand, with your brand's logos and symbolism and everything like
Mm.
that. And you would say, oh, I have this connection. Let me put this in here so that way, like, the collaboration of these things would get way more, like millions of eyes on, this logo right here. But since it's the opposite, and they do have the global audience already from Nike, it isn't really about getting eyes on it because the eyes are already there. It's just about
Mm.
the narrative of
Yeah.
changing the way that consumerism is viewed. Otherwise, they wouldn't say like, hey, if you want to commercialize your stuff, just debrand it, just take the logos off, take that off. Like you should want your logo to be
Everywhere.
everywhere. Like if I'm in a
Mm.
video game, you should want it to be in a video game. You should want it to be in music. You should want it to be in videos. You should want it to be in commercials. But instead, it's working the opposite.
And that's odd, because when you think about it, like, brands pay Netflix shows to have their products within it with a logo visible. I wonder where I have a law background, so I know that law and like legal stuff is usually like can be a little bit backwards. But I wonder
Hmm.
how it got to that, because if I were Artifact, I would want you to rock like the logo huge on
Yeah,
your clothes right now. That's
it's
interesting.
just it's
Yeah.
just the way the corporation goes. I think the founders, and again, like I have no malice or anything towards the brand.
Mm,
I love the brand itself.
yeah.
Some of the
Me too,
founders I
by the way.
really get along with, but I think that Nike has a greater involvement than they would like to be able to tell us. And I think there are a
Mm,
lot of NDAs that prevent them from really talking about it or saying anything.
yeah.
Um, and if Nike is seen as like lenient towards one brand or a particular person or another, then it messes with the rest of their
Mm,
legal battles. You see them right now. They're suing Lululemon right now. They just sued, Beta and Ape last week. They sued StockX. They're literally like suing everybody over IP rights. And if they're lenient in one area,
mm.
then that could be used as like counter argument. And I think that's the issue.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Yeah, it's not easy being in the position that they're in. Like no one on that across that chain of value. But honestly, I it's not even hope. I'm very confident in the future of Artifact and Clonex and Nike. I think they they have such a huge vision that like the bigger the vision, the easier it is to have a few missteps along the way and a few learning experiences. And when you're innovating at the speed that Artifact is doing it in and at the scale that they're doing it in,
Hmm.
like, you're bound to fuck up. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I mean, yeah, I'm still confident in the things that they do because the future is coming, and you can either be early to it or you can be too late for
Mm,
any real benefit. But all it's going to take is a company like Apple making AR and VR a household item that's
mm,
affordable and everybody has. Like, if you look at the sales for VR every year, they've increased year over year.
mm,
Once people get more into AR with fashion design and stuff like that, like Apple announced something about a mixed reality headset where it's similar
yeah.
to like VR, but you can actually see through it, and then the glass itself will display augmented reality things. Then you're getting into people wearing them outside their house. You're
Mm,
getting people using them in public. Kids will be taking them to schools. Um, they'll be reduced to glasses, which are lightweight and easy to wear, and then you have people really utilizing like AR wearables in real life, outside of their computer screen. And that's where it will, get big. But I'm sure we're still probably like 5 to 7 years out from that.
mm. Yeah, it's easy when you're in our position where we're down in the trenches, trying to build things. Like you don't know much about me, but I've actually launched a myself a Web3 project under another identity, but I'm just waiting for a few more weeks to tie the two together. But like
Hmm.
when you're down in the trenches, you and things are moving really fast in crypto, partly or mostly because of the speculative nature of it. You tend to forget that things tend to happen a little bit slower once you get out of the like early adopters bubble that we're in.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of pressure on the speed of things in the space for sure.
Yeah, there is. There always has been. But I mean, we've still hit a very interesting point, because man, the market was really shaken up last year, and we're still here, and we're still standing at valuations that are really good. Which it's not the end all be all of this whole thing, but it's still a very good indication that there are people who have liquidity who haven't pulled it out and who have been here to support these levels. So there is a future for it, and you have use cases that keep bobbling up. Um, yeah, everywhere. Can you how much are you willing to explain behind what the rationale is behind your use of NFTs with your community, with your listeners? What role do they play? How do you see your own personal NFT ecosystem growing around you in the next few years?
I have made it a point to be, as transparent as possible about that because, again, like that's something that we haven't seen in some places. Like, the
Mm,
lack of transparency is very frustrating for a lot of people. Um, Speculation is what makes people angry when it doesn't turn out to be what they thought it would be. And if you just let people know what the deal is ahead of time, like they're either going to make the choice to buy it or they're not. And if they do, who could be mad about something that you told them exactly what it was?
mm,
So, a few of the things that I've released already were strictly just for support so I could put money into building things. And I let that be
mm,
known. I'd say, like, hey, there's no real utility behind this NFT. This is just to support the journey, if that's something that you would like
mm.
to do. And so, people did. That was one of the more, popular things that
Yeah.
people bought of mine. But aside from that, if I'm not saying this is for support, I don't want to sell anything at all unless it has both an immediate utility and like a future utility on top of that. Because future utility is all speculation, anything can happen, shit could go south, and then in the future you're dealing with issues. But if you give somebody uh, a current usage immediately, then it's their choice to make
Mm,
again. So it's about giving people accurate, transparent information so that they can make the best choices for themselves. But my best example of that so far was when I released the features, the 10 NFTs. So you could
mm,
either buy a song feature from me and you could burn the NFT immediately and we'll make a song together, or you can keep it for the future. See how the artistry progresses, and it may be more valuable. And you can either use it then, or you can sell it to somebody else, which has never been done with features before. Because you could never
mm.
buy a song feature with resale value in the past. I think I was probably the first person to ever do that.
Yeah, you would have been. I actually thought of that on my way to the gym on Monday. Of, maybe I should buy one of those right now because, like I said, I'd buy the Vega coin if it existed because I see what you're doing. I see the hustle. I appreciate the artistry and I genuinely think that you're gonna go places. Um, do you think this whole utility for later, speculate on it and you'll see if you're right, is something that we're getting wrong in this industry as a whole? Because this is the meta, and it has been since like for the past 2 or 3 years for NFTs.
I think really that's all parts of life. I mean, that's what gambling is. That's what stocks are. So I wouldn't say that we've gotten it wrong. It just doesn't help that things are so accelerated in the space, and with that acceleration, people don't leave any time for growth or building or patience. You know what I mean? Like if you buy a stock, right? You don't think that stock's going to go up next month. I mean, you're holding stocks
Mm,
for years, and the company, the development of the company over time, is what you're speculating on. I would say it's fair to speculate on some things, but like the rate that it's being done or the expectancy for the time period of growth, people need to chill out on that.
yeah.
Um, you see what some projects are doing, like Pixelmon. Pixelmon, everybody was
Mhm.
like, "This is a complete rug. This project is done for." It didn't come out the way people expected it to, and now here we are. Like half a year later, and they have a pretty good looking game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yo, that wasn't even that long of time to,
Mhm.
for people to be deciding that this was a rug to them having a decent looking, game. And um, if they would have just been more patient and understanding, and had a positive mind about where things could go, then I think the brand itself would have been better overall. And that goes for all brands. Even Artifact itself,
Yeah.
like there are things that people don't like, but like give that shit a couple of years.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Yeah,
can't you
it's
can't
true.
expect everything to moon in like, a month or two.
It's true. It has, I think it also has a lot to do with the fact that a big part of Web3 is decentralizing access to investment opportunity that up until I think someone, I don't know where I got this information from a few days ago, like up until 2016, I don't think IPOs were available for retail investors until, yeah, 2016. And
Wow.
now you can get into a token, a project years before anything potentially happens. You don't know. You're not getting a ton of transparency. And with NFTs, it's even more. It's even trickier because you're getting to something that has a narrative, that has storytelling, that carries emotions with them because there's art, there's people, there's stories being told. And so it's really hard as a retail investor who up until a few years ago wasn't even allowed at these stages of a project to now being in invested, there's a lot of learning that's going to need to happen in the next few years in order for this to get better, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it too. Is people don't realize, and maybe they just don't give it thought, or maybe they do give it thought and they just don't care. But like everything in sales and everything in a lot of other fields is psychology. Like all the marketing and all that stuff is just a play on how can we get people to react? How can we make, how can this trigger like a response and somebody's like, brain to say, hey, I want this. I want to be a part of this. I want to do that. I think that there are a lot of brands without realizing that it's like necessarily psychology. I think they are um, realizing that there is a response that's had, and they're manipulating it, and it's not good for everybody. But we got to understand, like, marketing has been doing this, forever, and this is just intensified and like very targeted and very, very like diehard, like super fan type of psychology and marketing.
And it's 95% of the scams you see, they are using this. They understand better than anyone that this is 100% psychology. They know the reassurance. They know what people need to see in order to get things done. There was one that just blew my mind a few months ago. I think it was called Flower Fam, and they just had everything right. The website was super clean. The it was too clean. Like you could see that the people who had spent so much time on it had just like they'd spent all of their resources on it. And I'm pretty sure they'd been studying crypto Web3 communities for ages, and they had preceded every single ask, and everything that people would come in to expect, they were delivered. And it was just way too perfect for it to be a real project, because if all of your resources go into marketing, then you're not building anything. And it's,
Yeah,
oh man, you have to be really smart. But scammers are the smartest people around. I wish they'd just dedicate their resources and
I
smarts
know,
to
right?
something else.
Probably have something very successful if they didn't focus on scamming, I'm sure.
They would. They would. But I knew a guy who pulled a few rugs, and I told him, like, I don't understand why you're doing this. And I'm like you in that I'm a builder at heart. Like, I want to build something that is uh, substantial, that is sustainable, that will not just benefit me, but that will benefit the people around me. And I fit right into decentralization and Web3, just like you do. But he was like, yeah, but it's so much easier to launch something than it is to build something. And he's right.
I mean, it's easy, right? But at the end of the day, then what? You have a bunch of money and you spend it all, and then how do you feel? How do you feel inside about it? I think people should do things, and I do things because it's fulfilling to do. And, it's like a sense of happiness from within, and that's generated by myself, that I don't have to rely on or look for like a significant other to make me happy, or like, friends or family. I don't have to, you know, drain or absorb happiness from them. When you can find something that is both like fulfilling and makes you happy, and then also builds a legacy, then when you get past all the stuff and you're old or whatever else, I feel like that's something that you can look back on with no regrets about. Because if you're just a scammer and you're just scamming and you just do it for money and you have a bunch of fun experiences in a row, when that runs out, it runs out. And then what do you have left after that? You have no sense of accomplishment. You're just like, oh yeah, it was a good run. Well, I had it, right? I mean, and then what? Where's the legacy in that?
Yeah, we're all driven by very different things. How did you? I 100% share your perspective on life on that regard. How did you? Is that something that was passed on to you by your parents, like through socialization, or is it something that you had to learn like through life to get to this point where now you feel strongly about this?
I think it was a little bit of both. I had pretty good, parenting. Um, they did teach me a lot of, stuff about respect and about loyalty and about, doing things because they're the right thing to do. That's something I got from my dad a lot.
Mm.
He, necessarily isn't like one of those people that's like, oh yeah, the law is the law, obey the law, and that's what makes you good. It's just like, hey man, just do it because it feels right.
That's
And
beautiful.
not he's not like a criminal or anything, but I mean, even just like little laws, like you had to have a fishing license to go fishing, or you're breaking the law, you get a ticket. Like, man, fucking go fishing. But
Good for him.
like very very true to like doing things for you know the right reasons. And the other half of it is, some of the things were a little bit stricter than I am that they taught, and there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with, but that came from one day asking myself, why do I think the things that I think? Like, why
Mm.
are my opinions my own opinions, or are they because they were passed to me? Like,
Mm.
am I the type of person that's able to form my own thoughts? And so I did a lot of questioning and, searching with myself to like really decide for myself why I think the things that I do and if they're the right things to be thinking for me. So I think it was a little bit of
So
combination of
important.
both.
Do
Yeah.
you do that? Is that like this introspective work? Is that something that you do on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I think it's important to keep yourself updated. Worldviews change, the climate of things, it changes. You have to remind yourself, especially as you take steps and get more, tunnel vision or focused in things that you're doing. Like, you got to remind yourself what it is that you're doing, like why you're doing it.
Mm.
Does it still make sense? Like, is it still like a spark of happiness? Like, how is it affecting like the people around you? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I really respect seeing it in others as well. It's played a huge role in my life as well. I was very unhappy, and I had to take the introspection game to to a whole other level in order to make it out alive, almost literally. And but this society that we're in kind of pulls our attention in all different places where we're constantly triggered to put our attention on the outside. And man, especially in Web3, you have FOMO that's waiting for you at every corner. You have to you get this sense that you need to be plugged in constantly, and so it drains your dopamine, and it drains your energy as well. And like I don't know if you do that. I have a very like rigorous meditation practice. I meditate like up to like 2 or 3 hours every day, and I feel
That's
like when I
dope.
don't do it, I just it's life that drags me wherever it wants,
Hmm.
I end up making stupid mistakes, and I end up in the places where I believed I didn't want to end up anymore. And so I don't understand how people do, especially Web3, without at least like that introspection work.
Yeah. I don't like meditate or anything per se, but I think that I just practice like mindfulness and
Mm.
awareness of things. Because even what you were just saying, like receiving all kinds of things from external sources, like if you're mindful and like aware of exactly what we talked about, like it's just psychology.
Mm.
And you have to think like, people are doing things and they're posting things and like, Instagram pictures and all this stuff for likes and stuff like
Mm.
that. And the likes are just a form of, instant gratification that triggers, brain chemicals and things like that. And it's designed for that purpose to
Yeah.
make you feel like that so that you are addicted to it, so that you do come back to it. So if you are able to like have that awareness and realize like that's how it will affect you, then I think you're able to take a step back from it and not, let it control you or anything like that.
it's so hard to like think about these things at that scale. It is very necessary, but I we need to break out of the matrix somehow. Did you follow the whole Andrew Tate thing?
Not too much. He was somebody that I never really I didn't really agree with
Mm,
really anything that he was ever saying. So he's just somebody that I didn't pay attention to. I saw that he got arrested and he got in an argument with somebody that was probably half his age, which was just super super immature.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I kind of just stay away from that kind of stuff.
I
And if
understand.
somebody asks me like how do I feel about it, I'll be honest with them. But otherwise, uh, speaking about that kind of thing is just like polarizing, which is what like social media expects from you to be polarizing, so that there's more engagement and stuff like that. And it just causes arguments because people have been so polarized, and they want to just be political, and they want to be correct and not
Yeah,
politically correct. They just want to be political, and they also want to be correct. So I just kind of you know
yeah, I understand that. And you're an entertainer. And you're really good at it, and you might not want to throw yourself into every political debate that throws itself at you.
yeah, I
Otherwise,
mean,
you're
that's
just
true too. That's true too. But I also, yeah, you don't want to make that kind of thing your brand, because um, it will get radical very quickly. Things are very, very easy to radicalize when they're polarized, and it'll get taken to a place that's like completely out of your control.
mm,
And then also, it alienates a lot of other people that would want to have supported you, but don't necessarily like need it to go that deep.
yeah.
I don't need to be correct about everything. I don't need everybody else to be correct about everything. Like, just fucking
Hmm.
make smart choices.
Yeah,
That's
let
all
me let me make my music, let me do my thing, and yeah, that makes sense. By the way, I was mentioning Andrew Tate. I had the same initial reaction to him as you. And a friend of mine who I really respect was sharing his stuff on Instagram, and I hit him up and said like, "Not you! Like, what are you doing?"
Not
And
you.
then it led to a big conversation of like him telling me he's not who you think he is, and I was very skeptical. But I've no one's right all the time. I believe myself to be a good judge of people, but I'm not perfect, and
Hmm.
you algorithms have a way of showing you what certain people want you to see,
Yeah.
and so you get yeah, you get kind of even smart people get yeah, I lost my words, but yeah, you can get duped. And so he sent me a few pieces of content, and one of them was a 4 hour or something conversation interview by Patrick Bet David, who I didn't know either before, but who turns out to be a very smart guy. And they're having this conversation, and like listening to Andrew Tate for more than 10 minutes, you realize, oh, holy shit! Like the internet is actually presenting him in a way that is not actually him. He says things that are so in your face and so provocative, but that makes sense in the context of a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute long conversation because you have the whole picture. But people have had the tendency with him to kind of pick apart and take the most provocative and then turn it into a reel or turn it into a TikTok video. And so he's been, I'm not saying I haven't become an advocate for Andrew Tate yet, but I do think that there's a lot of good stuff that he's saying. And I was mentioning him because of the whole Matrix thing, where he says it a lot. He what he says is he wants to break people out of the Matrix, which I do think is necessary, and I do think that Web3 actually is a way for that, which makes these types of conversations all the more important because yeah, you seem to have a lot of stuff figured out, and it's really cool to see.
Man, I can only hope to try to figure it out.
Nah, you're well on your way already. Where does that confidence come from? Because you reek of it, like it's just so, and it's really cool to see. And how'd you get here? Did you always have it?
Yeah, just it came from being able to, laugh off rejection and realize that
Mm,
rejection is really just everything is a numbers game. They could say people could say no 400 times in a row, and then like
mm,
that 401st time is like what completely changes your life. So it just yeah, it's everything is a numbers game. Um, Being able to find like humor and everything in everyday life, it helps because like some people, take rejection or shortcomings or failures, and they get really down on themselves, and they let it like get in the way of the person that they are or the things that they're trying to accomplish. But um,
mm,
if it's just something that you can laugh at or that's just kind of funny, like you're just gonna keep going. So uh, yeah, I like to say that like one of my good qualities is the confidence to do the things that I do.
mm.
Um, Everybody's going to have days where they feel less confident than others, or like more shitty or whatever else. But uh, life is going to go on with or without you. So
It is.
you can dwell on it, or you can keep going.
Yeah, that's phases, right?
Yeah,
Your
phases.
song on, yeah, Crystal
Yeah,
Field.
man, it's real. Yeah, Crystal Field is like really. I would say like an introspective like album in general.
Mm,
Prior to that, I didn't really speak too much on personal like mental things or things of my life or whatever else. It was more of just the typical uh, you know
yeah.
public image of a rapper. I got drip.
Mm,
I'm cool like this and whatever else. But getting into artistry and diving deeper into it, you eventually have to like again you have to think like why am I doing this? Like what do I feel about what I'm doing? And that's what I like about doing this now as like a digital character is because
mm,
once you get into that bucket of like that type of artistry and that type of progression, like that's a path that you have to continue, and it gets kind of tough to be that real all the time and not just do things for fun sometimes. And so like as a digital identity, like Junior doesn't have to be tied to a person's like human experience because
mm,
he's just a robot character. So I can separate, if I want to go back to making music as Vega Genesis and being a real human emotional experience, and I can separate it with Junior and just doing things for the hype and for the fun and just for the hell of it.
that's so cool. Do you like? Are you developing Junior's kind of identity?
Yeah, yeah. There's like a backstory and like a little bit of lore and stuff like that I have built out, and that's I kind of touched on that when I introduced like the Valhalla version, and then the fact that there will be
I saw that.
more versions and cloned versions and like upgraded versions, like that very much does play into the backstory of it. Um, being a robot, robots don't have like a consciousness of their own unless it's just like a very, very, very advanced AI that can like mimic empathy, right? So
Mm,
like, yeah, a consciousness in a robot has to come from somewhere, which is like the backstory of Junior and why this version and this iteration is a rapper that can choose to take bits and pieces from like my personal life as myself as Vega Genesis,
mm,
because uh, there is like a chip or whatever type of device I choose to like transfer a consciousness of somebody from a previous lifetime into the robot itself so it has a personality. And that's why different versions will do different things because they can't all be on the same consciousness. there will have to be different versions of Junior represented by different people from different times that have
So
different
cool.
mentalities and different
Yeah.
personalities and stuff. Yeah,
Man, this is so sick. Like the potential is limitless.
yeah, that's my favorite thing about it. Like I thought of that originally because I would like to take it into the development of like an anime or like a cartoon. So I had to think like, storyline, like why, who is this character in the story? Is he still a rapper? If I were to do the anime, he wouldn't be a rapper. It's a completely separate thing. Why or how? So that was the backstory that I came up with for that.
I fucking love it. Yeah, there's many ways that you could take this. Do you what's the because you have Vega Genesis, who's the manager for Junior, and in your if you were to paint like the perfect outcome for you in 10 years, where would you be? What's Vega? Who else is he managing? What types of stories do we see Junior in? What has he become then?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the brand of Junior, just this all encompassing like media giant that does everything, like like YouTube and TikTok and
Mm,
Twitch streaming, the games, music, cartoons, merchandise, all those types of things, and in all those like streams and different platforms, it would be nice to employ different people who are talented and weren't given like the spotlight in their own like physical sense. So
mm,
similar to how I went about things. That way, like there are several people benefiting from the image, building the brand together, and also like for themselves and for the profit of themselves. Um, that way, uh, it even plays deeper into the lore and the backstory of it being a clone with different capabilities based on what chips have been inputted. Like obviously robots can go through any types of upgrades there. That's why it doesn't matter if somebody on a Twitch stream sounds different than I sound. Like
mm,
voice is all modulation if you're a robot. So like it could be somebody that's female, it could be somebody that's male, it could be an older person, it could be a younger person, but I just would like to seek out talented people that deserve the spotlight they aren't given and can help build something together that's bigger than themselves. So I hope it's that in 10 years where it's just this massive thing. And I like to use the example Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is 90 years old. Mickey Mouse is in everything, has been in everything, has been in
mm.
video games, has been in movies. I would love for us to see people take digital identities there, because that again, like I talked about, that's like real legacy. Like that's forever.
Oh man, I'd never thought of it that far. For me, it was so like simple of, hey, I'm just gonna slap an AR mask on my face because it allows me to be anonymous and to not what I personally love, and I think I find it in what you're saying as well in a different form. For me, I, my project is a DAO, and I would hate for this when it grows huge to be about me. I hate
Hmm.
the whole entrepreneur superstar thing. It pisses me off because entrepreneurs, the CEOs, they're not the only people building these businesses. And so I don't want to be I think everyone plays an important role, and I think I play an important role, but I don't think I play the role. And so that's what I love about this is that it's not about me. This is a character. This is online. He
Yeah,
lives online. And then when I take it off, I'm me and I have my real life and no one really knows what I'm doing. And I kind of like it like that. And this way you have the online character that takes his friends along a journey and that does cool stuff. And then he goes back to real life and he can just live. And I love that I love the vision that you have because it really, you could actually build a brand that outlives you by 200 years.
oh yeah, I mean it's definitely like that's something that's the dream, I think, for all creators, is to make something that lasts longer than you do.
Mm.
uh, there was one of the basketball players. I can't remember who said it in a press conference like recently. They were asking him, something about, I don't know, some negative shit about the
Mm.
game, or like how do you think you played, or whatever else.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, sometimes if you have a bad game, you don't want to answer those questions anyway. So he was just like, in 200 years, nobody will even know who I am. You know what I mean? Like in 200 years,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna know me, but like
Mm.
Junior may very well still be around. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm picturing it now. How do you you're a businessman. You're a rapper and you're really good at it, but you're also a businessman and you're also uh, somewhat of a tech visionary as well because you're utilizing a new technology in a way that no one's thought of before. And so, in various aspects of your role right now, you use both parts of your brain that usually don't really work too well together. Like be too businessy for too long, and then it gets hard to create art. How do you deal with that?
I think like one of my biggest sources of inspiration for my creativity is like coming up with creative solutions, and creative solutions is very like business driven at the same time, because like,
Mm,
my thought process generally, like it could be viewed as slightly like pessimistic, but when somebody like presents something to me, or if I think of an idea, my brain immediately goes through like a
mm,
checklist of, okay, if I'm doing this, what are all the things that could possibly go wrong, so that I would be able to create a way to overcome those things.
yeah.
And it helps me move forward, and it helps in that kind of business sense, because it comes from a place of logic. Those two things kind of don't get along sometimes, creativity and logic.
Mm,
But if you use the logic um, to come up with like creative solutions for things, then you're still able to take the rest of what you're doing and align it with, like a successful model or a way that makes sense.
man, that's awesome. And so you're not having any like at what rate do you create artistic content?
Every day.
Yeah, you're just taking all the excuses I could have had because I'm trying to pick up. I'm trying to pick up. I've been writing for a little bit, and so I like writing that transforms into poems, that transforms into slowly some sort of music, and then picking up the guitar and trying to do it, and then I but it's so hard when you're in the rush of life and of business and of like managing people and trying to figure out the future, and when you have all of this uncertainty, I find it really hard to write creatively or to actually even just play the guitar a little bit. But
Mm.
it just it goes back to what do you prioritize, and how much room do you give your excuses.
It's not only that, but we're in a time and an age where we can monetize legitimately every single thing that we do. If you take anything that you do throughout your day, any of your hobbies, any of your necessities, even things that you need to do, like eating and cooking, people have monetized them, all of them. So you can't really force creativity out of yourself. If you don't feel like writing, like you can't write. There are times where like I
Mm,
should be writing and I'm just not because I don't feel like it. But what else am I going to do instead? Am I playing video games? Am I just shooting the shit with friends? Making up just funny conversations. I can take those things and monetize them behind what I'm doing. Like if I'm playing video games, why not do it in a way that can pay me? If I'm already just, you know, fucking around and joking around and just wanting to have a laugh with some people, why not take some of those funny things that were said and save
mm,
them to be said in a video, or just make the video live? It's like a podcast type of thing. Like you can monetize everything that you do, and so when you think about it that way, then like the consistency is kind of built in, and it doesn't feel like you have to be doing
mm.
a single thing. Like you don't. have to be just like playing guitar and writing songs. Like you're also doing these things that you would have already done anyway, but now it counts and it's going towards, the same goal that you had.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We live in a crazy time.
Yeah.
Man, this was really cool. Who I like to close these conversations these ways. Who who are you looking for at the moment? Who are the people that you're trying to talk to or interested in talking to, that you would like, for them to reach out to you?
Um, just people in like major, places that have the connections or could provide the opportunities to give, what I'm doing like more visibility or like more merit. Because everything is very hype driven and like, people pay attention to like what's everywhere all the time, like what's popping or whatever else. That's kind of what I'm trying to do is like, gain
Mm,
more credibility, more visibility, work with major brands as partners and things like that. The biggest issue that I'm having is that people see what I'm doing and then they see the potential of where it could go, and instead of wanting to support me doing it, they want it for themselves. They'll be like, wow, this
mm,
is an incredible thing. This stands to make so much money. There's so much potential behind this. Can you teach me how to do
yeah,
it? Can you tell me how you do it so that I know how I can do it? It's never really about like, hey, I see what you're doing and I want to push it forward because I see it and I believe in it. It's like, hey, I believe in that so much that I want to do it myself. So
that
I
makes a lot of
think that's
sense.
like my biggest problem that I'm having right now, and I just would like, the people that I need are the people that are, willing to do something outside of themselves and have the connections to make it visible and more credible.
Yeah, I'm taking this to heart actually, and I'll keep thinking about what I can do myself at my own scale. And I'll
Yeah,
definitely make
thank you.
that clear. Yeah, absolutely, man. You deserve it. And yeah, like I said, I've said it like 3 times already, but I love what you're doing, and I respect it, and I'll use every opportunity that I have to support and push you forward. Um, Thanks, man. Thanks a lot for taking the time, for waking up
Yeah, man,
early, and
for sure.
yeah, we'll probably talk soon again in the future.
For sure. Yeah, just let me know, whatever you need from me, whenever. I try to respond quickly, but sometimes I get a little bit caught up in the day. But yeah, I'm usually pretty responsive.
It's all good. Do your thing, man. I respect it.
Right. The universe sings.